everyone! Welcome to your weekly lesson with Miss Amanda and Miss Bianca, where we practice our language and fine motor skills.
This week, we are going on a camping spree with Mr. Mcgee. We're going to read about his fun adventure, and after we get to sequence the perfect camping treat. Our language skill of the week is going to be prepositional phrases.
And our fine motor skill will be bilateral coordination as we build a pretend s'more using household items. Okay, Miss Bianca, let's get started.
A Camping Spree with Mr. Mcgee, written by VanDusen. Early one morning at 7:03, Mr. Mcgee and his little dog Dee packed up the camper and hitched up the load, hopped in the Rambler, and then hit the road. They drove to the mountains far from the sea for 2 nights of camping, or possibly 3. "There's nothing like camping," said Mr. Mcgee. "I know you will love it. Just you wait and see. The views are fantastic. There's hardly a sound. Aside from the wildlife, there's no one around. And the air is so sweet you'll sleep like a log," said Mr. Mcgee to his small spotted dog. A few hours later, they took a sharp right and found a great spot to lay camp for the night. It was high on a hill with a beautiful view of Mount Adams, Mount Lincoln, and Jefferson too. But perhaps the most wonderful feature of all was the brook that ran over a steep waterfall. Dee gathered up pine cones and branches and logs. Mcgee made a campfire and cooked some hot dogs. And as the sun set behind far distant knolls, they sat roasting marshmallows over the coals. As the embers went out, they felt tired and dozy, so they climbed in their bunks all comfy and cozy. But while they were falling asleep without care, along came a stumbling, bumbling bear. A kindly old bear whose sight wasn't so clear. He couldn't see far and he couldn't see near. But he could smell marshmallows, sticky and sweet. This smell made him hungry. He wanted a treat. He sniffed out the place where the marshmallows lay, but the car and the camper were in the bear's way. Yet that didn't stop the sneaky old snitch. He simply tried squeezing right under the hitch. And as he was shimmying into the gap, he pushed up the hitch, which let go with a snap. Now that the camper and car were untied, they started to roll down the rocky hillside. The car bounced away on the old logging road, while the camper was heading to where the stream flowed. It flew down the hill in a wild, bumpy ride. With Dee and Mcgee sleeping soundly inside. They were snoring and snoozing, enjoying a dream, when splash went the camper right into the stream. The splash shook the camper. They bumped out of bed. "Now what in the world was that?" Mcgee said. And when he looked out and saw where they were, his hair stood on end, and so did Dee's fur. They were caught in the rapids, but that wasn't all. They were headed smack dab for the big waterfall. Dee and Mcgee both started to quiver, and faster and faster they headed downriver. But just when they thought they'd fall over the edge, their camper got stuck on a rock at the ledge. So there they were, stranded, Mcgee and his pup, on the top of a waterfall 50 feet up. Meanwhile, that nearsighted bear from before was searching for one little marshmallow more, when lo and behold, as if out of a dream, he spied something sweet floating over the stream. But what the bear thought was a marshmallow treat was really the hitch and not something to eat. The bear was determined to capture his prize, so he jumped in the water right up to his thighs. He splashed through the stream to the edge of the fall and snatched up the trailer hitch, camper, and all. Dee felt a tug. McGee heard a knock as the bear pulled the camper right off of the rock. He dragged them both all the way back to the bank when he realized the hitch was not sweet, but quite rank. He spit out the hitch and left it in dismay, while McGee and Dee's camper again rolled away. It flew down the path with a jolt and a jar and stopped in some bushes right next to the car. Dee popped her head out. McGee looked out too. Had they really stopped rolling? Could it be true? At last things were quiet and peaceful and still. They hooked up the hitch and drove off down the hill. And on the way home, McGee said to Dee, "That trip wasn't quite like I thought it would be." So when they got home, with the sky turning red, they decided to camp in the backyard instead. The end.
Now that we've seen the adventures of our camping spree with Mr. Mcgee, I thought, well, we should have some fun too and roast our own marshmallows. So let's sequence how to make a s'more. Well, first, we need to collect all of our materials. So we need something hot, a fire. We need our graham crackers, our chocolate, our marshmallows, and a skewer. So next, you need to roast your marshmallow. So I'm gonna put my marshmallow on my skewer and I'm gonna roast it. We wanna make sure it's nice and brown and fluffy, all gooey on the inside and crunchy on the outside. When your marshmallow is nice and fluffy, nice and soft, it's ready to go for your next step. So then you're going to put together your s'more. I'm going to put my chocolate on top of the bottom graham cracker first. Then I'm going to put the marshmallow on top of that. And this one on top to make our little sandwich. So now you get to the last step to enjoy. That's pretty good. Now that we've sequenced how to make a s'more, it's time to work on prepositional phrases this week. So a few weeks ago, we worked on prepositions. And remember, those are words that give us meaning for a direction or where something is. So remember, I had those shamrocks or those little clovers and we put them on top of things, under things, in things, over things. I think my dog was in that one. Well, a prepositional phrase is when we add more words to give us details. So if I tell you, I put my s'more on top of the plate, I give you more details. So I'm going to show you some short videos and we are going to put together our prepositional phrase to not only make our sentences bigger, but to make them more detailed. Let's get started.
If I asked you, what is the cat doing? You would say, the cat is sitting. Now let's add a prepositional phrase to give it more detail. The cat is sitting on the chair. Let's look at the next one. What do you see? I see a dog. Now let's add a prepositional phrase to give it more detail. I see a dog in the basket. Here's the last one. What are the ducks doing? They are swimming. Now add a prepositional phrase to give it more detail. They are swimming in the water. Great job, guys.
Wasn't that book so much fun? Let's build some pretend s'mores now. For the graham cracker, we are going to use a piece of cardboard If you don't have any cardboard, you could use a brown paper bag, you can use some brown construction paper, or you can even use a brown crayon to color some white computer paper. For the marshmallows, we are going to use cotton balls. If you don't have cotton balls, you can use crumpled up paper, you can use crumpled up Kleenex, you can use tissue paper, we can even use some shaving cream. For the chocolate, I'm going to use some styrofoam and I'm going to color it with a brown marker. You can also color it with some brown paint, or you can explore different options such as using a piece of brown felt, a piece of brown construction paper. You can be creative with this. We are also going to need a black marker and a pair of scissors. The first thing that we're going to make is the graham cracker crust using my piece of cardboard. I just cut a piece of rectangle cardboard out of a box that I got in the mail last week. So I'm just going to pick up my scissors and I'm going to cut the rectangle in half to make 2 squares. If cutting out the cardboard is too challenging for your student, you can give them some help with the scissors, but cutting through this thick resistive material is really good for building that hand strength in our hands and really working on that separation of both sides of our hands. Once we have our rectangle cut in half into 2 squares, we're going to take our black marker and we are just going to draw a dotted line down the middle of both squares, just like we see when we have graham crackers. If your student is working on tracing, what you can do is draw the dotted line in a yellow highlighter for them and then have them trace over the dotted line with a black marker. When we're done making our graham crackers, we're going to put them to the side and then we are going to make our chocolate. I have a rectangle piece of styrofoam that just came in a package I received in the mail last week. I cut it a little thinner so that it would be easier to cut into a chocolate square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to trim it down and make it a square, just like that. Then I'm going to take my marker and I am going to color the styrofoam on both sides to resemble the chocolate square. When coloring, we want to remember to encourage our student to use that functional tripod or quad grasp. We want to make sure that we're using our other hand to hold down our styrofoam as we color. And we want to make sure that we encourage our student to open and close their marker so that they can work on that bilateral coordination and also that hand strengthening to open and close their marker. When we're done coloring our chocolate, we're going to put it to the side and get all of our cotton balls. Now to make our cotton balls look like marshmallows, we're going to pinch them with both hands and we're going to fluff them up a little bit, just like that. Make them nice and big. We're going to do this with all of our cotton balls to make them nice and fluffy, just like marshmallows. When you have enough cotton balls for your s'mores, what we're going to do is we're going to bring our cardboard graham cracker back over, turn it over. We're going to put our cotton ball marshmallows down. Then we're going to put our styrofoam chocolate on top. And lastly, we're going to put our cardboard graham cracker on top of the s'mores. And there you have a s'more, just like in our book, Camping Spree with Mr. Mcgee. Now, if your student is working on tracing, next we are going to trace the steps for roasting marshmallows, just like this. So your student will need a pencil, a highlighter, and a piece of blank paper. If your student is working on copying sentences, you will need a pencil and some lined paper.
Well, I hope you guys had fun with me and Miss Amanda today. We had so much fun with you and can't wait to see you again soon. We hope you have a great week. Bye.
See you later.